Hey guys, what's going on? Yeso here, and I want to talk today about the official announcement that we got with Verhulst transferring from Team Esports Arena to join the TSM FTX Apex roster, and the fact that he will be competing with that team now, and kind of just the implications of this move. Obviously, I've been kind of fascinated by the whole situation, and I want to talk about it kind of from a couple of different fronts, but mainly from how I think things will pan out for TSM and what this move looks like for them, and especially, of course, how this changes things for Team Esports Arena. So I want to break all of that down. We got a lot to talk about here. We'll hit some stats and things, some things I'm very interested to kind of highlight when looking at the situation. So we'll kind of go through all of that. Now, if you guys are new to seeing me, maybe you don't know exactly who I am. My name's Yeso. I'm an esports shoutcaster and broadcast host. If you do watch Esports Arena's Series E, I do host that every single week. I was actually on draft day today. At the time you're probably watching, it's probably the day prior because this will go up the day after draft day. But yeah, I host Series E, as well as a ton of other different content for Esports Arena, and I cast and host a bunch of different games. So, but I have been working with Esports Arena on this Series E project since early on in Season 2, all the way throughout Season 3, and then I'll be around, of course, again for Season 4. So, let's start off, though, at the top. Obviously, the announcement came through officially today. We announced it on the broadcast that Verhulst will be joining TSM FTX. He will be leaving the Team Esports Arena roster, which was formerly Team Intel, which consisted of Verhulst, Duplex, and Skittlecakes. They have been competing together for about 5 months at this point. They got together during the qualifiers for Season 3, and that was around, if memory serves, I think early June of 2021 when this roster kind of came together, and have been competing together since. So obviously that announcement came through today. I do want to personally say congratulations to Verhulst. Obviously this is, really what it's all about for players going into Series E. It's an opportunity for them to grow and learn and show their stuff, and try and get an org like a TSM, a CLG, or others to take interest in them, to want to sign them to their rosters. And so this is really Verhulst completing that Series E journey, and that's incredible to see. So congratulations to Verhulst. Hey, if you're watching this, it's been a pleasure to follow your journey through Series E. It's been really fun to see how you have grown and how you have really, blossomed on this stage, whether it's in Series E, in other tournaments, in the ALGS. And I look forward to seeing that continue, because I don't think that stops here with your move to TSM, and obviously I'll get into that more later. But just first of all, congratulations to you. It's been a pleasure to watch you, and I'm looking forward to more. But let's go through kind of how this story developed, and I will say I do have some more inside information than others, just based on, I work with Esports Arena, and I've kind of known that this was going on from the beginning, but I'm not going to go entirely into everything and how stuff panned out, but just broadly we can look at what happened based on kind of public knowledge. And obviously all of these rumors started when it started to come out that possibly Snipedown was looking to leave TSM to go back to competing in Halo. Obviously, Snipedown has a lengthy history competing in Halo. 343, of course, had the early drop of the multiplayer beta for Halo Infinite. And, there were tweets from Snipedown because I believe he was planning on competing in the Raleigh Major. And obviously the early release of the Halo Infinite multiplayer beta changed all of those plans, because all of a sudden he was still in the middle of the ALGS regular season with his team, but now suddenly had an opportunity to start to work and get ready to compete at that Raleigh Major in mid-December, and that changed things for him, certainly. And so rumors started to go around that maybe Snipedown was looking to leave Apex and go back to Halo, and these were obviously accelerated when Formal, who I believe was going to compete with the FaZe Halo roster, came out on stream and said that he was basically let go, that they were looking to bring in Snipedown to fill that spot instead of Formal, and that started a huge let's just say shitstorm, right? Apex Twitter was freaking out. They were like, oh my God, what's going on? Is this true? If so, how are they going to fill this roster? And everything started from there. So now there's all this speculation. Is Snipetown leaving? If so, what does TSM do? And the immediate question was, okay, they've got to find a new controller player. And Verhulst was at the top of, or around the top of that list of controller players to replace Snipetown. Verhulst is young. Verhulst is incredibly talented, has been performing really, really well over the past 3 to 5 months. And you also have to note that in kind of the lead up to this Snipetown news happening, Verhulst had been playing a lot with multiple members of TSM on stream. He had streamed multiple times with Reps, Snipetown, and Hal, and had most recently, I believe just a couple days prior to this news coming out, had specifically done a long stream playing and grinding ranked both with Hal and Reps at the same time. I watched the stream. They were crushing it. I think at one point they won 4 or 5 games in a row. And so all of a sudden with this news of Snipetown possibly leaving, Verhulst being at the top of that list, and then specifically you go, wow, well, he's been streaming and playing a lot with Hal and Reps. It's got to be him. So obviously that happened. Speculation went crazy. I won't give information on necessarily how things progress behind the scenes, but obviously between the time of this Snipetown news coming out and today, Verhulst decided that he would like to go and join TSM and become that new third and replace Snipetown. So that's kind of how things broke down, kind of how the whole situation started there in the public eye. So obviously kind of a crazy turnaround, because it's really a majority of this only happened in the span of 2 to 3 weeks. And so that brings us to Verhulst joining TSM. So I'm gonna talk about that first, and then we'll talk about Team Esports Arena after. So first of all, let's talk about TSM and the fit here. I think that this is the best move that TSM could make, 100%. Obviously, losing Snipetown is a huge loss. Very, very good player. Obviously brings a ton of history, a ton of experience, and the Snipetown Reps Hal roster is considered widely to be one of the best rosters in the history of Apex. Granted, that history is not that long. We're only, a few years in, but that is one of the most successful and historic rosters when you look at just 3 players competing together that we've seen in Apex. And so losing a Snipetown is an incredibly difficult hole to fill. But when you look at the fact that Hal and Reps had already been playing a considerable amount with Verhulst, building some of that chemistry, some of that comfort together. Verhulst has been one of the hottest up-and-coming pros over the last few months, has been incredibly successful in and out of Series E, and I think that is a big key. Is not only was he competing in Series E in this kind of closed environment and doing well, but he was able to, along with his team, go into other third-party events, whether it's Knights Carnage Cup, in different arena events, going to Nerd Street, etc., and continuing to perform no matter where he went. That is huge. And then you look at the fact that, going to Esports Arena and this player is signed for, possibly not a super long-term contract. Maybe it doesn't cost TSM too much. So when you look at this move, this is probably a fairly low-risk, high-reward move if you're TSM. And certainly TSM is obviously not short on cash, right? They've signed this huge naming rights deal with FTX for $210 million. They are the most historic org in esports, so they're not struggling for cash, but this really seemed like the perfect storm. Obviously, the timing is good for them. Maybe not quite for Team Esports Arena, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But in terms of TSM, this is really a perfect fit. I think Verhulst meshes in with this roster really well. You get that great controller player who can be kind of that leading fragger for your team. Not that you're missing fragging power with a Reps and Hal on the table, but Verhulst has shown an incredible ability to compete, can be that leading fragger for your team. Incredible Valkyrie player. Also, of course, he and Team Esports Arena were a part of kind of that leading edge of changing the meta in terms of pushing that Valkyrie Caustic Gibby meta, and so Verhulst just an incredibly talented player. So that's a win. In terms of looking at TSM and kind of the near future, look, we've already seen Verhulst compete with the team a couple of times before the official announcement of the move. They've looked great. They finished second just behind Team Esports Arena in week 4 when Verhulst was still competing with the team. But outside of that, they've won some other events. They've placed very high. In Knights Carnage Cup, I believe they finished second place, if memory serves, and that was with Verhulst playing with them. So it seems like early on it's been a perfect fit. Obviously, time will tell if things continue to trend in that direction, but I doubt this is going to be a bad move. I think Verhulst is a very talented player. He's also very young, right? I think Verhulst is only 19 and is pretty fresh to the scene, so there's a ton of growth still there. So in the end, looking at this move from a TSM perspective, I think it's a huge win. They get a young player that already has great chemistry with Hal and Reps, can be a great fragger for your team. I think this is a big win for TSM. So let's look at the other side and let's talk about Team Esports Arena. Obviously, this is a squad that, again, formerly as Team Intel with Verhulst, Duplex, and Skittlecakes, came in as the best team in the Season 3 qualifiers for Series E. They then won Season 3 of Series E pretty handily. They did have some ups and downs early on in the season, but they were the most consistent team overall. They had some huge, over 100-point single night performances during Season 3. So incredible run there. Then, after winning Series E Season 3, they start to play some other outside tournaments, right? Qualifiers are going on. They don't have to deal with that. They've already qualified for the next season. They go and win in a Pro League qualifier. Gets them into the Pro League. Huge. They're playing other tournaments, whether it's Arena or on World's Edge. They're consistently placing highly in those and even winning some of these 10Ks. They place second at the Series E 10K. Then you go into Pro League, and how do their first 3 weeks go? Second place, third place in what is arguably the toughest group in the Pro League in Group D. So Team ESA, Team Esports Arena, they're on top of the world. They're crushing it. Now you have this news of Verhulst leaving. And it's huge. Verhulst has been, the shining star of the squad. And I say that from the perspective of that is who it feels like the entire community has had the most focus on. I think there's certainly been a lot of people that give credit to the team as a whole, as they rightfully deserve, and some people that have, highlighted Duplex and Skittlecake's talent. But Verhulst has been almost always the first name out of anybody's mouth in terms of talking about Team Esports Arena and their success. So taking that away is always going to hit the team, especially when you look from a chemistry perspective. But I want to talk about a few things, and before we talk about who might fill that void, I want to talk about what the team has done so far and why I don't know that this is as big of a hit as some people will be saying. So I want to bring up some stats here. You can see at the top of your screen right now, up here, some stats, and these are the stats for Verhulst, Duplex, and Skittlecakes from their competition in Season 3 of Series E. I thankfully obviously have access to all of the behind-the-scenes stats for Series E, so I'm able to pull from those and talk about that. Third-party tournaments, not quite able to do the same, so I'm just going to talk about their run in Series E, and I do rightfully recognize that this is not a perfect or huge sample size, though it is a quite considerable amount of games. It's something I would believe about 90 to 100 games total here, so it is not a certainly small sample size, but it's mixed. Half of it is against pro teams, the other half against non-quite pro teams, more open squads. So, but I still think this is good to talk about because I think it highlights my point still, regardless of that. Now, you can see the stats for each of these players up there. Inside the parentheses is where they ranked in that specific stat amongst all Series E signed players. So we'll start with kills. You see Verhulst there finished third with 172 kills. Duplex was fifth overall with 133 kills. Skittlecakes took the top fragging spot for Season 3 with 181 kills. You'll notice one thing on here. We have a few first places for Duplex and Skittlecakes combined, none for Verhulst. Okay, go to total damage there. 7th for Verhulst, 1st for Duplex. Duplex was the only player in Series E last season to eclipse that 90,000 damage mark total on the season, took first place. Skittlecakes finished in 3rd in total damage at just south of 83,000. Then you go to assists. This one is going to be largely team dependent, and so you see Skittlecakes, Duplex, and Verhulst take the top 3 in assists. No real surprise there. And then you look at the damage per game. Duplex 2nd overall with that 859.62 per game. Verhulst and Skittle not super far behind, both up over that 700 mark, but Skittlecakes finishes in 5th, Verhulst in 7th. So when you look at those stats, what this shows me is that, first of all, I think if you want to argue that Verhulst is the best player on this squad and was the best player on Team Esports Arena, I think that's a fair argument. I think you can 100% make that argument, and I don't know that I would necessarily disagree with you. But what these stats show me is that Duplex and Skittlecakes bring so much to the table, and Duplex's IGLing I think is incredible. I think Duplex is one of the best IGLs right now in professional Apex. But what Duplex and Skittlecakes bring to the table, I think, free Verhulst up to perform the way that he does, and it tells me that I don't know that this is as big of a loss, because you look, Skittlecakes had more kills and assists on the season, higher total damage and higher damage per game. So Skittlecakes beat Verhulst in all 4 of these stats, and these are, the main stats, not necessarily overall damage, but kills, assists, and damage per game are kind of the 3 most heavily focused stats outside of placement. And Skittlecakes beat Verhulst in every single one of them, topping the league in 2. And so when I look at this, and I have to kind of follow my sword here a little bit for a moment, because obviously with me hosting Series E every week throughout the entirety of Season 3, I was obviously a big Team Intel fan. I highlighted Verhulst a lot, and I think Verhulst certainly deserves that, but I think that, I think I did a little bit of a disservice here to Skittlecakes. Because I think Skittlecakes was an incredible player, but I don't think I talked about him as much, and I think a lot of folks in the community don't talk about Skittlecakes enough, because I think Skittlecakes is incredible. I think the numbers back that up. Continues to be an incredible fragger, is still a big part of why Team Esports Arena has been so successful in the ALGS Pro League and in outside tournaments. And so when I look at this, dropping a player as talented as Verhulst, not easy. Losing 1/3 of your roster and that chemistry that you had built, incredibly difficult. But with what Duplex and Skittlecakes bring to the table, I think this roster can handle this loss very well, especially if you bring in the right third. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So, in my opinion, I don't think this is as big of a loss for Team Esports Arena as it would appear. Verhulst has certainly been the biggest name in everybody's mouths about this team over the last few months, rightfully so, but I don't doubt whatsoever that Duplex and Skittlecakes can maintain the level that they have been at, because this was much more of a team effort, top to bottom. This was certainly not a squad that was just getting carried by Verhulst. So I want to make that very, very clear. Now, let's talk about the potential third here. Team Esports Arena has been competing with a new third over the last few weeks, and while we don't have anything confirmed yet, we can at the very least speak about it as if, let's pretend that this is going to be the third. And that has been Noct. You guys may know Noct from the C9 roster that competed at the ALGS Championships back in June. Noct was a part of the KSZ roster. That's Noct, Stay Naughty, Zach Mazer, that got signed by Cloud9 at the start of the summer and competed at the ALGS Championships. And then after that, C9 elected to let Noct go. While he has still stayed with the org, has not competed with the roster, and they replaced him with Albert Laley, who left Team Liquid after Champs. And obviously there's been a huge discussion in Apex Twitter over the last few months about Noct. The hashtag justice for Noct hashtag trends almost weekly because Noct has continued to be an incredible player. Noct then went on and competed with Benchwarmers, which was the Noct Rambo I'm Madness roster that did qualify for the ALGS Pro League. And now it appears, at the very least, that Noct is going to be the replacement for Verhulst on this roster. What does that mean for this roster? Well, I think that's just a nice, comfortable swap for this squad. First of all, the team with Noct has performed very, very well just in this short amount of time. Granted, this is an incredibly small sample size, but I believe they've already won a 10K with Noct and then placed 4th overall in the Knights Carnage Cup this previous weekend. So early results already very promising. Noct was not a Valkyrie player prior to playing with this roster, but has seemed to be willing to pick it up and has done well so far in that role. So when I look at this, dropping or letting Verhulst go is obviously going to hurt, and having to rebuild that chemistry is going to take some work. But when I look at this team, I think Noct is going to slot in just fine, as he already has here. You've got your IGL intact with Skittlecakes, who can continue to be the leading fragger here. And I feel like you don't need to ask too much from Noct for this team to continue to play at the level that they have. So in the end, I think both teams win in this situation. TSM get their replacement for Verhulst, and while Team Esports Arena loses that big fragging player in Verhulst, slotting Noct in, I think they don't even miss a step. So we'll have to see. Obviously, week 5 of the Pro League is coming up this weekend. That will be certainly a huge test. The nice thing for Team Esports Arena, they've already locked their spot in the Split 1 playoffs, so they don't have to worry if they have a dip right now. They can heavily focus on trying to just rebuild that chemistry, build some momentum for the playoffs. But something tells me they're still going to be coming out. They're still going to be fragging hard and making people want to watch this team. So I'm looking forward to it. So in the end, kind of the TLDR, congratulations to Verhulst. Obviously, incredible story for him, and looking forward to seeing what he does with TSM. In terms of his fit on TSM, I think it's a perfect fit. Young player, ton of talent, super high ceiling, already has some good chemistry with Hal and Reps. I think that's a W. In terms of Team Esports Arena, I think Skittlecakes deserves more credit for the success of this roster. I think they're going to do just fine, and I think the addition of Noct, obviously we haven't had anything confirmed if this will be the permanent fixture on this squad, but at the very least for right now, I think Noct is a perfect replacement for Verhulst, and I do not think Team Esports Arena will miss a step. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what happens in Pro League this weekend. For those of you, though, that watched, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Definitely going to be doing more content like this over the next few weeks through the rest of the year, just because I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about in the esports space. And I'm not just going to talk about Apex. I want to talk about League. I want to talk about Valorant. I want to talk about Halo. So if there's stuff that you guys are looking, for my thoughts on, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Caster Yeso. That's CASTERY4SO. It'll be linked in the description, or just let me know in the comments. So have a good night, everyone.